It's impossible in just a few minutes to present all of the Upcountry History Museum's themes and exhibits. Well, impossible for me anyway, but here's a look at some of the more outstanding offerings. First, and most important, is the overall theme, or even the mission as expressed in the museum's name: the history of Upcountry, South Carolina, and how Upcountry history differs from that of the Lowcountry, the Midlands, or the PD. This is expressed throughout, but for me at least, most distinctly in the discussion of the Upcountry's response to the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, and the post-Civil War period of adjustment. Speaking of which, war, conflict, and violence in general is another theme I found strongly represented in the Upcountry History Museum's exhibits. Now, this museum is hardly unique in that regard. It's impossible to present an honest interpretation of the history of a geographic region as large as South Carolina's Upcountry without including a goodly serving of war and violence. Disagreement between Charleston, as it was often put in the early years, and the Upcountry was near inevitable, if only because of sharp differences in geography and economy. The Upcountry made some effort to imitate the plantation culture of the Lowcountry, it seems, but given differences in geography and even culture, it was never a very comfortable fit. No, South Carolina's Upcountry was, and at least to me still is, very different from the Lowcountry. Greenville is no Charleston, nor is Charleston a Greenville for that matter. Patterns and timing of settlement made a big difference. Northern European immigrants arrived in Charleston, Georgetown, and the rest of the coastal region far earlier than did the Scotch-Irish and German immigrants who came down the mountains to settle the Upcountry. Upon arrival, they faced quite different challenges. Agriculture, the primary means of survival or of making a living in the early days, is a good example. The Upcountry History Museum's agricultural exhibits skillfully present those differences, as well as their cultural and political implications. Cotton, for example, was an inviting cash crop, but it wasn't long before Upcountry entrepreneurs learned there was an even better living to be made in the manufacture of cotton cloths than in the cotton itself. The museum has an excellent textile industry exhibit, as you'd expect from a history museum in Greenville, South Carolina. Be sure to spend some time in this section. Punch a few buttons and listen to the recordings too. It's great stuff. Maybe that's how this part of the state gained its head start in manufacturing. But that's not all. The Upcountry History Museum does an excellent job of interpreting the region's academic or education background, from elementary reading, writing, and arithmetic to colleges and universities. It's clear these folks saw the value of education and, as important, the benefits gained from giving broad access to that education. So, look carefully through these exhibits, as well as those devoted to religion and spiritual life. Often the two are combined here, as in other parts of the world. Well, that's all we have time for. I hope you'll be able to visit this interesting museum yourselves. It's well worth a trip, several trips in fact.